topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Life with Open Pages Publishing. We all have a purpose in life. Sometimes we just need a little motivation to point us in the right direction. This show is designed to help you create the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Michelle Spikanis. My goal is to motivate you to make simple life changes so you can experience a life with meaning, direction, love, and peace. Now let's start the show. Hello and welcome to Life with Open Pages Publishing. I'm so glad you're here tonight. You know, our show tonight is called Return to Peace. And, family legal matters, they impact every family member from the youngest to the oldest. Now, my guest today, Alex Peterson, Esquire, he is from Family First Legal Group. And he is going to help us to understand how the legal industry is crushing people and how his team intentionally does things differently. So welcome my guest, Alex Peterson, Esquire. Hi, Alex.
Hello, Michelle. Good evening.
So glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to sharing some thoughts that are rattling around this brain of mine.
Okay. So let's start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a proud father of twin 9-year-olds. I've been married since 2010. My lovely wife, Katie. She and I run the firm Family First Legal Group, and that's what led you to invite me onto your program tonight. We're from Baltimore originally, but now we've relocated to Southwest Florida, beautiful Southwest Florida. I am an avid fitness enthusiast. I love exercising, lifting weights, being outdoors, that type of thing. And, really like to read and study and continue to learn and grow. And I also love what you're doing in the self-improvement industry because you never can stop learning. It's just amazing every time you discover a new author or speaker or intellect. It's amazing. The world is so open and beautiful.
It is. And I am a lifelong learner for sure. So tell me, Alex, why did you get into family law? Why is that important to you?
Well, the long version or the short version, Michelle, which one would you like?
I want the most interesting version.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Well, the middle of the two is I was for a very long time keeping a secret about myself from the whole world. And I didn't share it with anyone until probably shortly after my wedding. I mean, I was a grown man. And that secret was that my father, the man who adopted me when I was just 4 or 5 years old, a very young boy, my stepfather before, and then became my legal father. When he adopted me, I did not share that with anyone. I kept that a very guarded secret. And it was only until I kind of had this mentor, an older gentleman in the business space I was in after I got through law school, and he kind of talked to me and he said, when you tell me about why you're doing this, because I was confiding in him in private, so I felt comfortable sharing it. He said, when you tell me about your father, he sounds like a hero. It sounds like you have the problem with it. And I had been telling myself all along that it was a shame to him to mention it and to share it. And it was somewhat of a disgrace to him that I was not his blood son. And then when Al, my mentor, just turned this around on me and said, he sounds like a hero, it liberated me to share my story.
That's interesting. Oh, it looks like we lost Alex. I'm sure he'll join us back really quickly. Let's see if he comes right back. There he is. Maybe. Are you there, Alex? Well, while we're waiting for Alex to come back, when he talks about being adopted, one of the books that I wrote, You're Not My Parent, is the title of it. And I do cover a chapter of adoption. And, it's really important that if you are going to adopt a child, that you make sure that you're in it for the long haul. They deserve so much more because they've already been through so much in their life, that we really want to make sure that if you're going to, adopt them and have them as your own and tell everybody how, the wonderful news, but you got to be in it for the long haul. You really do, because these poor kids have already been through, probably a divorce or the death of a parent. And just that alone is enough to really hurt our children today. It's just so difficult. Now, I'm really hoping Alex is going to come back here soon, but I can go ahead and kind of continue on. So when we talk about divorce is a hard thing on everybody. Like I said before in the beginning, family legal matters affect every single family member. And sometimes our kids don't know how to express their feelings or their thoughts or what they're going through, So it's very important to take that one-on-one time with them and explain what's going on and get their feelings. And, don't try and force other people into the relationship right at first. It'll take a while before they'll be willing to even accept someone coming over. Kids can be very territorial, and they certainly don't want another person invading their space or trying to take the place of the custodial parent or the parent that has left the house. It's so hard on children. So I want you to know you really have to take it slow with the kids. It can take up to 2 to 3 years for a child to accept a new person in their parent's life. So it takes a lot of patience. So I want you to just, sit back and do what's best for the kids and put the kids first. And then everything else will fall into place. So I'm waiting to see if Alex is coming back. I hope he's coming back. I don't know what might have happened. So in the meantime, I'll keep going. It's okay. So when we do talk about, another person coming into the house, we want to make sure that the kids know this person. You don't want to force time with them, but you do want to extend time with them. You want to have short family outings. You want to, when you introduce them and let them know what they're supposed to call that person. And you want to make sure that when you do have a family outing, that it's something that's kind of short. We don't want to have, hours and hours of the poor child sitting there and being tortured by somebody trying to be their friend, when especially they have enough friends. So, but we also don't want to buy the child. You can't, kids do love gifts, but they'll catch on pretty quickly. And they know when you're trying to buy them, and boy, they'll use you and they'll let you buy them everything under the sun, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be friends. So just be real careful when, you're, say, mom, you got a divorce and you're bringing a friend around, and, and don't have them call them uncle, because they're not an uncle. Is Alex back?
Michelle, I'm here, but I don't know that you can see me any longer. Can you see me?
No, we have audio though. We have audio. I've just been kind of talking about divorced parents and adoption and all that good stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and continue on for now, and we'll try and get the other stuff worked out. How's that? I think we lost him again. Are you there, Alex?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you. So let's go ahead and pardon.
I said, oh no, Michelle, you know what they say is best for a show like this is losing your guest.
It's all good. It's all good. I can still hear you. It's all good.
Okay, good.
So, you kind of left off with he was your hero, and so you were able to disclose, that you were adopted, correct?
As a result of being able to share that with my client base, the firm has just exploded in its success and really blossomed. And now there are just incredible numbers of people who, really enjoy what it is we have to offer because we're doing it in such a unique way.
So why did you go into family law? Was it just the adoption, or was there other reasons behind that?
Believe it or not, Michelle, I had a lot of divine inspiration. I was set on doing DUI defense. I thought I was going to be the person to defend people from the tyranny of the government. And I was going to be this big, defender of individual liberties. But I started my firm in 2012 doing whatever came in the door. And I came to realize I hated any sort of criminal defense, and I hated basically everything else. And I really loved the family law work. And then I would go places and randomly I would just be given signs like, this is what I need to be doing. I would be in the grocery store and I'd overhear someone an aisle over saying about how their uncle was a family law attorney. And then I would be at the beach and hear something similar. And just telling you, so many things fell into place where I became aware that this is clear. I need to be doing this to help people.
Wow, that's really interesting that you even paid attention to the signs, because so many people don't.
I agree totally. And I don't know why they don't, but I'm glad I did.
So what does distinguish your firm from other firms?
A ton of things, really. I mean, I think foundationally, Michelle, it comes down to the perspective and the approach from the beginning. Our perspective and our approach is client-focused, client-centric. So we're looking at everything we do from how will this impact the client, how will this help the client, or how will this frustrate the client? And when you get into a professional services practice, particularly those who have worked with lawyers before, they've probably, unfortunately, experienced a sense of egotism and a sense of self-centeredness where it's all about the lawyer, right? You came to see me. You came to see me. I can fix your problem. I'm the one you need, rather than how can I help you? What do you need from me? How can I serve you better? And that's, I would say, at the most foundational level, the perspective is what is unique about our firm.
Okay, so going back to when I first introduced you, we had talked about, you had made a statement on how the legal industry is crushing people. Would you kind of expand more on that?
Anyone who's worked with an attorney in any capacity can feel some of the squeeze. There's no question. You're talking about a judicial system that's trying its best, but for any of your viewers or listeners who are in Southwest Florida, in Collier County, we have roughly 400,000 permanent residents, and there are two family law judges. So you're talking about trying to squeeze all of the family law problems that are present amongst almost 500,000 people through the doors of two well-intentioned, hardworking, dedicated judges, but they're only two people. And
wow, it must take a long time to get a court case on the docket, right?
Absolutely, a painfully long time, no matter how well-intentioned you are.
So how do you handle that with your clients? Because I know when I was getting my divorce, I wanted it now, not 10 months from now.
Everyone does, and everyone tries, and we do our best as well. Those who are lucky, Michelle, can find some common ground with their soon-to-be ex-spouse or ex-significant other, and they can reach agreements that are reasonable and they can move on. That's the quickest way by a mile. Those who cannot are forced to wait their turn, and And sometimes in Collier or Lee County, you can be in the process for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Wow. So what happens? Wow. So those that don't get along very well, what happens to the kids during this time?
Great question. It really depends on the circumstances involving everyone, and it's so uniquely fact dependent. Sometimes they end up living with relatives. Sometimes they're living with one parent. Sometimes they're living between houses. Sometimes they're ending up living with a significant other's new boyfriend or girlfriend while we await hearing time. Now, I will say this, Michelle, fortunately, we have done a tremendous amount of emergency work. And when you do submit an emergency motion to the court, which has genuine danger presented in it to the children, my experience has been the judges are very, very accommodating in supplying us hearing time as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, that's great because, I'm definitely an advocate for children. And when we had lost you, I was talking about how important it is for the parents to, once they're divorced or separated, not to automatically try and bring someone else into the picture, because they need, kids need time to mourn the loss of that relationship just as much as the parent does.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Michelle. We've had enough interaction with mental health professionals, forensic psychologists, those who work with children, and all of them have said, these kids really need at least 6 months before they are introduced to a new person who could sound or seem like mom or sound or seem like dad. They really need that period of time. And, to go back to what I was saying at the introduction about my own example, here I was, a successful, accomplished person entering and completing law school with this kind of shadow behind me that I never really felt comfortable sharing. And I was somewhat embarrassed by it and, my own upbringing. And there was no reason for that. But when you're a child, you don't know how to deal with these sorts of things. You don't know how to sort them out. You don't know how to explain them and justify them and all sorts of stuff. So it creates problems that last a lifetime. It's not something that if I had gone into a different field of work, I probably still would be the type of person who tries to make jokes and deflect and not be candid and open because it was painful. But now I, fortunately, am in an industry where we do it all day, every day. So it's very comfortable for me.
Sure. Now, I was looking at your website. You have 10 years of experience. You have 6 lawyers, 2 offices, and over 20 staff. So tell me, what do you attribute your success to?
Well, clearly it's my technological expertise since I'm still on video with you. I think really it comes down to that honest vulnerability that I talked about, being able to share my story. Every one of my staff has a story. Everyone is willing to share their experience because in reality, everybody's got something. Even if you came from the most perfect mother, father, nuclear family and everything was hunky-dory, the uncle was the black sheep and he got divorced, or such and such grandparent was adopted by whomever, or there's just, everyone's got a family law story. And when you now come into an environment where we are client focused, client driven, and team organized with our own drive to help people, it's created this tremendous energy. I mean, it sounds so unusual to say, but we have former clients who, one in particular I know, but there are many examples of things just as generous. But one of my former clients, I put in touch with a current client or a client who's going through something similar. And I said, you need to speak with so-and-so because I've helped this person through it, but I've never lived it as she did.
Right.
And when I put them in touch, the former client actually took this person into her home and let her live with her for a period of time and supported her unconditionally. I mean, Michelle, that's amazing. That kind of communal support developing amongst a growing and blossoming client base is like a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yes. That's pretty amazing to hear that would, somebody would do that, especially unfortunately in this day of time, we have to say that, back in the day, it would be nothing for someone to come and stay with somebody, but now it's, kind of different. So when you talk about your clients, I know when I was going through my divorce, I shopped around and I felt like I was picking that attorney. I never even thought that maybe they were picking me or selecting me too. So it obviously has to be a mutual beneficial agreement between the two of you. But how do you pick your clients?
That's a great question. A lot of folks, I don't think, feel comfortable when they come into a divorce process being totally open. I think everyone's a little bit guarded. So we like to represent people who absolutely share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We always say the only thing we can't handle in court is a surprise.
Okay.
If you tell us everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly up front, we can work with it. We can address it. We can make it sound less horrid, and we can do what we need to do. Now, I'll say at the outset, we absolutely do not represent someone who we suspect is purely motivated by dollars and cents in terms of getting their kids just so they can reduce their child support.
Okay.
If that's somebody looking for a lawyer, they can keep looking, because we have no interest representing someone like that.
Okay.
So I think we kind of, by just energy, vibration, we draw clients to us who kind of are attracted to the way we speak and the way we share our message and the fact that I'm on a program like this. And, I think energetically we have an attraction mutually because people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have that preliminary connection, the best thing is then just total transparency. Share with us whatever it is. We'll help you solve it. That's why we're there. And we want to make the situation better because, as you can see from our kind of online presence, we've had a tremendous amount of success.
Yes. A lot of beautiful comments. Man, the comments are awesome.
And that the person who feels comfortable sharing those things is only a small percentage of the people who really feel that way. So, you're talking about several hundred people online, and there are hundreds and hundreds more who haven't shared their experience and had the similar feeling. So it's been a beautiful thing for us. And I think top down, our team is really unparalleled in this industry in terms of their ability to handle very dense, complicated, emotional challenges that clients present in a way that's comforting for the client.
Right. So let me ask you this. When you said no surprises in court, I got to know what you're talking about. So what kind of surprises are we talking about? Without revealing too much,
Yeah, sure. I mean, if someone has told you, I'll use an example.
Okay.
I once went into a hearing on an emergency basis because someone was threatening someone. I was the recipient of those threats. My client was. I was representing the person who was the recipient of those threats, Michelle. And it was alleged and told to yours truly that this person had come and torn open trash bags and dumped trash all over the front yard in the kind of threatening and harassing manner that would, put on someone, and that there was a child involved in the middle of the whole thing. And it was a big mess. And then only at the hearing, when the person was on the witness stand, did I come to learn that the person I represented had actually opened the trash bags. They had been put there by the other person. They had been put at the garbage where they would have been picked up, but the person I represented opened the bags and spread the trash. So, that's the type of thing where no. We cannot have dishonesty. Got to have straight candor from both sides, us to you and you back. And that's the only way it's going to work. Otherwise, we all look like fools and, we don't get the results that we want.
Sure. So in a situation like that, how do you start, backstroking and covering up for that?
That I think because the judges have seen it all, they kind of know that it wasn't. Well, let me say this. Because of the reputation that my firm and I have established with the judges, I knew the judge instantly knew that was not something I was attempting to conceal from the court. That was clearly something that was a surprise to me at the time. So I got a little bit of a pass on it because 99.999% of the time that would never happen with me and with a case that I have in front of the court. So it was one of those things where it's just kind of like the judge gave us all a look and said, don't do that to me again. And of course we didn't get the result we wanted.
Sure. Yes. That I can only imagine, it just goes to show you that, you do try and elicit people's trust and full disclosure. But, a lot of times how hard is it to get that? How hard is it, like me telling an attorney, maybe something I might have done that wasn't above board, it's embarrassing. So you may not disclose all of it, but then in the end, it's going to bite you because it's going to get disclosed eventually.
Exactly right. Exactly what you just said. 100,000,000% I agree. It may be embarrassing to the client, but we just begging them, please share it. I promise you we've heard it and hundreds of times worse. Just be an open book with us and it will be better in the long run for sure.
Okay, I think we're going to take a small break here and we'll be right back. It's time for a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation. At Open Pages Publishing, we offer coaching, marketing packages, and other professional writing services such as a resume, articles, copywriting services, press releases, social media, and blog posting. For more information, email us at info@openpagespublishing.com. And now back to our show. Okay, so Alex, what are all the areas that family law cover? Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Okay, great. We have a wide range of services that we provide. Step-parent adoption is my personal favorite for the reasons we've already discussed. Mm-hmm. Divorce is our most common service offering. Unfortunately, there's a tremendous amount of that. If you view it from the perspective of a divorce is unfortunate, but we take the view that it's actually an opportunity for growth in a tremendous way. Paternity, what they call paternity, is where folks had a child together, but they were never married. And then we do a significant amount of what's called temporary extended family member custody work, where a relative has a child and needs to get orders so they can protect the child. Mm-hmm. And then we also do a fair bit of appellate work, which is when someone has a bad outcome at a trial level, we then go to a supervising court, if you will, and ask that they reevaluate what the trial court did.
Okay. And with the extended family piece, are you seeing more and more of that today?
Yes. Yeah, quite a bit. In fact, I was on the phone today with someone about that, and there's a significant drug issue amongst younger parents. I would say 20-something to 30-something young parents. There's a near epidemic level of drug usage, and the children get caught with no one to really care for them, except the grandparents step in, thank God, and then it becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Wow, that must be really difficult on all the parties involved. So how long does something like that take to resolve, and what do you normally see as the end result? Do the parents come back? Do they stay gone? The grandparents keep them? I mean, how does that work?
I've seen all of those. Some are done quickly because the parents don't even bother responding because they're so out of touch. They're what's called defaulted. And that can be done in 60 to 90 days. It's rapid as far as the judicial system is concerned. Other times it is a hellacious fight and it's years in the making, and the parents never really go, and the grandparents and parents are fighting incessantly. And then I've seen some where we file, we get the child safe, and then the parent does really truly get rehabilitated, and then everyone reunites happily, and now they're all better for it. So it really depends on the circumstance, but it can be any way.
So do you ever have a chance to talk to the children in any of these cases?
Occasionally, yes, we do, particularly older children. We can interview if they're going to be asked to participate as witnesses.
Okay.
But I also do some what's called attorney ad litem work, which means you get appointed by the court to represent a child. So I would not be representing a parent in the dispute, but rather the child. And I've done that a few times, and that's always been a rewarding experience. In fact, I love doing that.
That sounds really interesting. I have heard of, it's the guardian ad litem, correct?
Guardian ad litem is the layperson, and then attorney ad litem is when, similar concept, an attorney represents a child.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that sounds really interesting because, we got to give those kids a voice. I mean, they're drugged through the mud, and it's just so unfortunate. At the beginning of the show, when you were talking about adoption, and we lost you there briefly, I did talk about how my grandson was adopted by his stepfather, and how it's important that if you are going to adopt a child, that you are in it for the long haul. So give me more of your thoughts on that, and what kind of families are you seeing adopting?
I think it's so beautiful when someone who doesn't have a blood relationship with a child takes that responsibility as seriously as my father has, and as you're describing your situation, because it just goes to prove that love is so much more than blood. You can deeply and truly love someone in a way that someone who's blood related may not ever understand, just because it's a choice. Love is a choice.
It is.
But just by the same token of what I said before about the temporary extended family member custody cases, the adoption and step-parent adoption, family adoption, relative adoption, they all take different shapes and sizes. I went to Ave Maria Law School. I happen to be Catholic. I'm very much a Christian man. I live my life according to Christian principles as I understand them. But I've represented many same-sex step-parent adoption cases and same-sex divorce cases, same-sex prenuptial agreements, and I will continue to do so because my worldview and my theory on Christian teaching and things, and the people that I turn to as experts in that field, I think that that's the prudent thing to do. So as far as I'm concerned, Michelle, two loving parents are better for a child, no matter what they look like or how they sound, than one loving parent. It's hard being a parent to a child.
It is. It's very hard. I was a single mother for over 8 years to 2 kids, and I tell you, it was hard. It was really hard.
It's definitely hard, and it's probably still hard to this day. They probably call you with problems and concerns and things that you wish you could help with, and they probably won't listen or take your advice. It's hard at any stage.
Yes, it is. So let me ask you this question. Okay, so 2 people meet, and one is the biological parent, and the other eventually becomes the step parent. Do you feel that there is a specific waiting time before adopting that child, or do you think it's okay just to do, whenever?
Under Florida law, there is no period of delay, which is very interesting. A person could marry after having only known a person for 3 days. They could marry in Las Vegas with an Elvis impersonator, and then they could adopt the day after. So do I think that that's prudent? I'm a big libertarian. I don't really like the government deciding for me what I can and can't do. I'd like to be free. So I would not want to artificially impose some arbitrary waiting period on anyone legally. I don't think that that's a proper use of the state's power. However, I would caution anyone from jumping into the decision to adopt a child if they were not serious to take it to the grave. I mean, if you are not willing to be caring for that child until he or she is 70 years old and you are, 90 or 100 years old and they're standing next to you at your bedside, hopefully that's kind of the long-term perspective. Because if you have someone like myself, I can just picture back, if I had felt the sense of, inequity and abandonment and trust issues and all the things that I felt because of my biological father's departure, if I had then had my love and affection that I have for my dad, the guy who adopted me, if he had left, that would have been crippling. I mean, that would have been really, really hard, because I would have then said, oh, for sure, there's something wrong with me.
Correct. And so many kids feel that, and that's why I said earlier, there has to be like a mourning period, and no, nobody may have died, but the relationship died and the whole family dynamic died. So we have to allow our kids time to kind of regroup and get through that, and not try and force, someone else on them. I know a long time ago, when I did get a divorce, I wouldn't bring anyone around my kids because I didn't want them to get used to them or get confused. Today, I see kids, one after the other, boyfriend, girlfriend, and these poor kids have no idea who's who.
That's an issue. I mean, that's definitely an issue. But it has to be balanced, though, Michelle, with there's a tremendous amount of guilt that parents bring into the process that sometimes hurts the child more because they stay attached to an idea of what the family should be,
right,
rather than what it is. And if they had pulled the Band-Aid off much sooner, the child probably would have been better for it. So it's an impossibly difficult dynamic to balance as to when you have to get out of a bad situation and then into something new. And then I suspect what often happens is they've been living in such misery for so long, they are like, I've already paid my sentence. I've already served my term in prison. I need to go be happy now.
Right.
And that then butts up against the need to protect and insulate the child from things. So it is, I hope what your listeners or viewers are hearing me say is it's a really daunting challenge to make the decisions. And if you don't have a supportive attorney, if you have someone who's too clinical and just doesn't really care about what you're going through like that, they just totally miss it. It just flies right over their head. Whereas when you have someone who's not only a legal professional, but someone who is in tune with the unbelievably hard decisions that you have to make in this position.
Correct.
It's what leads to the sense of community and the feedback and all those positive things, in my opinion.
So going back to divorces, do you recommend that people do counseling before going through with the divorce? Have most couples maybe already done that piece, and that's why they're, come to see you in your office? How does that work with your office?
Well, interestingly enough, there is something in the Florida statutes that when someone files for divorce, you can file a response and demand counseling.
Oh.
And we've done that a number of times. So our personal opinion is that we never interfere with someone who wants to get counseling. We refer them to counseling very, very often. Is it effective? I would say more often than not, no. Probably very significantly more often than not, no. Mm-hmm. Nobody really wants, as much as I may be interesting, and although you can't see me, a nice fellow to see in a suit, no one wants to pay me several $100s an hour to sit with me, right? It's just, everyone would much rather spend their money elsewhere. You only get to the point of filing for divorce when you're really up to the neck about it, right? So yes. It's not, when we get to the stage where someone has called an attorney, dealt with the discomfort that's involved, scheduled a consultation, sat through a consultation, paid the money, signed the documents, filed them, they're pretty well decided. So we see probably, I would say, 3 to 5 reconciliations a year in our office.
Okay.
And that's of maybe 300 clients a year. So about 1%. And then of those 3 to 5, I would say usually within 2 to 3 years after, one of the other is calling us back and they're going forward with it. So oftentimes I think the counseling, well, we recommend it and we encourage it. If it's a small communication issue and both people are bought in and they want to fix it, they really haven't even talked about divorce. If the people who have talked about it and threatened it and don't really treat each other with much respect or kindness,
Sure.
The counseling is probably not going to do much, but we always encourage it if it's possible.
So I really want to know, I can only imagine how it would be listening to, say, a female, sobbing female, about, I've got to get a divorce. I'm so upset, and crying. How do you maintain your composure during stuff like that?
I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. I just view that person as a human in need of help. I don't know. I don't really know, Michelle. I think it's something I really kind of relish the fact that they're sharing that emotion with me. It's like I would do anything in my power to make that person feel comfortable to tell other people to come do that, because I know that's maybe a rare quality, but I just really relish the opportunity to be that to someone. I get to put, think about how beautiful it is that I get to put a piece of paper on my wall and people come share that with me. Like I don't, that's something I really love, actually.
Yeah. I mean, because they're pouring their life story out to you, basically.
Yeah.
And I know, if it was female and female, we would probably both have tissues. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I can, I just can't imagine sitting there. And I know, people aren't, it's not like a revolving door. They're coming in every, 5 minutes and crying to you, but it's just, it's so heartwarming to think that, your office is so open and you have such a structure in place to handle stuff like that. That's an awesome thing.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, that would lead me to something I'd like to share with your listeners or your viewers.
Yes, please do.
Because, there's a really, really big part of our, I would say, contribution to the process. That is, we do not tolerate victim mentality. We're very much direct. And while I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to listen, I'm going to absorb everything you're telling me. And I believe with all my heart, I'm going to provide the best protection and feedback and everything. I'm not going to tolerate a lack of recognition that we allowed ourselves to be in the position that we are in. If you do not choose to accept responsibility for the good, the bad, and the ugly in your life, then you are giving your power away to someone else. And when you give your power away and you are by definition powerless, you can't help yourself. And we are insistent. I mean, I'm kind of militant because I'm such a stickler for verbiage. Being an attorney, words carry such great weight that I will listen to folks. And when they tell me about something terrible about some other person, and then they blame that person for that conduct, I have to insist that until you really truly recognize that you allowed this to happen for a period of time, you cannot get better. So will every client who's ever sat with me tell you that they love sharing it with me because they felt heard? No, because I've insisted that they take responsibility for their circumstances. Now, of course, if someone is totally unaware, totally unknowing, and someone comes home and tells them, I want a divorce, I've been cheating for 6 months, I no longer love you. Well, of course, I'm not going to say that to that person, right? They had no idea. They had no understanding. They had no foreshadowing. But when you have someone who says, my ex has been a narcissist for 10 years, well, I like to look at that as saying, I tolerated living with a narcissist for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's truth.
when you do it that way, when those are the types of clients who come to really love working with us, because they get to see the world in a completely empowered view. And they understand now, emotionally and intellectually, I have some say in the matter.
Yes.
I get to decide if I get treated like this or not. I get to decide if I'm trampled on or not. I get to decide what my son or daughter is exposed to. That's a liberating, empowering message that I think every attorney should be attempting to at least imbue or demonstrate to their client base. And then to take it even further, I think we just have a few minutes, so I'll hurry.
Yes.
To take it even further, we often are asked, because of my Ave Maria graduation and because of my Christian focus and what have you, we're often asked by folks who are Christian whether or not they should get divorced, right? Which is a uniquely personal and religious decision.
Yes, it is.
But I encourage anyone out there to investigate Gary North, just traditional spelling, J-R-Y, North, N-O-R-T-H. Gary was a guy I had the pleasure of hearing in 2011 at an economics conference. He's a fascinating man who's written on the economics of the Bible. It's like a 8,000 page tome. It took him 50 years to write it, literally. Fascinating guy. But he talks about victims' rights. And in a divorce, when you have a person who was beaten by the other spouse, if you say they must stay, if your Bible tells you or your Christian faith tells you you must stay in that abusive relationship, well, then you are rewarding the aggressor and punishing the victim.
Yes, totally agree.
And where are the victim's rights? So you have to pick. It's not like you can just sit back and be totally immune from the situation and say, nope, I can't touch that. No. Someone is the victim and someone's the aggressor. We have to decide who. And that's how I'll end, since we're running tight on time.
Okay. So, Alex, how can everybody get in touch with you?
FamilyFirstLegalGroup.com is our website. Our direct line is 239-206-3664. And we have teams of intake specialists waiting to help anyone who calls.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I would love to have you back on the show when we can see you again.
I'm in a suit for nothing, Michelle. I feel so foolish.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? It's live. It happens. It's all good.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Hey, if you'd like to be a sponsor or guest, please contact me at info@openpagespublishing.com. This is Michelle Spikanis reminding you to live the life you were meant to live.